Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the NoDQ.com recap of WWE Crown Jewel 2025. This year's show was not in Saudi Arabia, but rather in Perth, Australia. Very eventful premium live event. A lot to discuss. Let's go ahead and break it down. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. We opened up the show in a significant way. We had the Australian street fight. Roman Reigns versus Big Bronson Reed. Fun match here. It was a bit tame by street fight standards. I feel like AEW has done so many violent street fights over the years that the WWE ones come off as very watered down. But we did have a few fun moments in this. We had the cricket bat, which is an Australian specialty. Roman Reigns used that as a weapon. The crowd was very hot for this. They were loving Roman Reigns. Despite it being Bronson Reed's home country, the crowd was still behind Roman. They were chanting, F him up, Roman. Roman even got on the mic and said if you wanted tables to acknowledge him. However, he went for the table, and that allowed Reed to gain the advantage for a while. We had a chair being used. Reigns ended up giving Reed a Samoan drop through that chair. Then Reed hit the jagged edge. Reigns kicked out of that. A stop sign was used. Reigns then built up momentum and was going to spear Reed on the outside of the ring, but all of a sudden, he got attacked. He got intercepted by Braun Breaker. It's a street fight. Anything goes. The outside interference was inevitable. Then we had the Usos coming out there to make the save, because Roman Reigns had been put through the table, the announce desk, by Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Usos came out there to try and help. They took out Breaker with the 1D. They were super kicking everybody, Reed and Breaker. But somehow, Reed and Breaker managed to regain the upper hand, despite being outnumbered 2-3. Then Reed was going to go for the tsunami on Jay, but Roman Reigns saved him. And then Roman Reigns was in control, and Jey Uso was going to spear Bronson Reed, but Reed moved out of the way, and Jey accidentally speared his cousin Roman Reigns through a table that was set up in the corner. And then Braun Breaker speared Jey. Bronson Reed then hit the tsunami on Roman Reigns and got the 1-2-3 victory. This one surprised me. I was not expecting Bronson Reed to pick up the victory in this one. But hey, they put him over. How about that? Bronson Reed wins in his home country. And we had some bloodline drama after the match was over. We had Roman Reigns, Jey, and Jimmy just sitting in the ring. Roman was yelling at Jey, saying, "The whole world thinks I can't do shit on my own." That was a direct quote from Reigns. And the crowd was chanting, "You effed up" at Jey. And Reigns said he loves the Usos, but he doesn't want to see them again until Christmas time. And he walked off, and the Usos were not happy with each other either. They were frustrated. Everybody was upset. It definitely felt like the classic bloodline storyline from a few years ago where they were not getting along, and we just let the drama play out in the ring with everybody. I like it. I like the fact that we're getting this again. It does remind me of the Vince McMahon drama with his family. You remember the Attitude Era? That that storyline with the McMahons was very compelling television. And then WWE would cool off a little bit in popularity, but the McMahon drama could always be relied on to bring in the numbers and get people interested. And I almost feel like it's the same thing here with the Bloodline. You know, you had that red hot Bloodline storyline during 2022, 2023, led to a boom period in WWE. And, you know, it feels like we're cooling off a little bit, but now we got the Bloodline back in the mix again, and there's this drama between them. And I thought it was well done. It's definitely compelling, and I'm sure we'll get more twists and turns heading into Survivor Series. Now, shout out to Dave Scheffler, who sent in $5. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the super chat. Dave says, I think we had it wrong for War Games. It may be Wyatt's versus MFTs as too much fighting between Roman, Jay, and Jimmy. I don't think so. I'm guessing it is still Team Roman Reigns versus Team Seth Rollins at Survivor Series. Roman Reigns, he's been in War Games every year, and you want to have your biggest feud showcased in War Games. I don't think they're going to do Wyatt's versus MFTs. I really don't. I feel like they will get it together. Like, that's the whole point. You want the good guys having issues right now, and there's adversity that they have to overcome. And that's going to eventually lead to them bonding together and being on the same page for Survivor Series. I'm still saying it's Team Roman Reigns versus Team Seth Rollins at Survivor Series. And, you know, we're going to have the twists and turns until we get there. But they will patch things up. And yeah, Roman said he doesn't want to see them until Christmas. But yeah, I think we're going to see them interacting before then, well before then. Strong angle. Match itself was good. Not even close to the best street fight I've ever seen, but the angle with the Usos and Roman Reigns was definitely strong enough to be part of the show and part of what carried this opening match / segment. Next up, we had Stephanie Vaquer, the women's champion on Raw, versus Tiffany Stratton, the women's champion on SmackDown. They had the unfortunate task of having to follow the Roman Reigns angle. They were in the buffer position. Second match on the card is sometimes very difficult, especially if the show opens with a hot match. The crowd was into it, though. They were doing the dueling chants. Very evenly matched between these two, as you would expect in a champion versus champion match. A few of the highlights: Tiffany did the Alabama Slam, and then Stephanie did the Bullet Train knees. So they were going back and forth, and we got the Devil's Kiss, of course. Then Tiffany avoided the Angel's Wings. She went for the prettiest moonsault ever. Stephanie, though, moved out of the way, and then Stephanie picked up the victory with the corkscrew splash, which still doesn't have an official name, but she did get the win nonetheless. It was a good match. They didn't get a lot of time for this, and they had to follow the Roman Reigns match, so it was tough for them, but I thought it was very good overall as the second match of the show. Champion versus champion, though, you might expect them to have an all-timer, but it was pretty good. And Stephanie was given the Crown Jewel title by Triple H, and then she cut a promo. She told the fans that they made history together. I think she was the right pick for this one. Stephanie's the one that has the momentum. Tiffany, she's the champion, but it feels like she's cooling off a little bit. I think Stephanie winning was the right call here. Shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. Building Nexus says, will LA Knight be left off of the War Games match? That's a good question, because if you have Roman Reigns and the Usos. Who else do you have on the team? Do you have CM Punk, LA Knight? Will that be the 5? We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if he's going to be on it or not, but time will tell. I feel like I'm missing somebody, though, but I cannot think off the top of my head. There's a rumor that Brock Lesnar and Austin Theory are going to be on the heel side, which is interesting. We'll see how it plays out. But I wouldn't be surprised if LA Knight goes heel. I'm sure we'll be talking about that more. I feel like somebody needs to be heel in this storyline on Raw. And LA Knight, even though he's been getting great reactions, I feel like a heel turn could actually benefit him at this point. So we'll see. All right, let's talk about AJ Styles versus John Cena. The dream match that we get to live one more time took place on this show. AJ Styles was wearing his classic TNA wrestling gear circa 2005. That was great. And John Cena had a special ring introduction written for AJ Styles, and the announcer read it off, and it made a reference to Total Nonstop Action and the Bullet Club. It was really nice. It was a really cool thing for John Cena to do. They had a very long match here. I don't know the exact time of it, but to me, this was an all-time classic, and I thought John Cena versus Cody Rhodes from SummerSlam was an excellent match. I think this was even better. This somehow exceeded my expectations, and dare I say, it's a strong contender for the best match of John Cena's career, and maybe even AJ Styles' career. They really went out there and paid tribute to a lot of people. They did so many different moves from different wrestlers. Michael Cole even was wondering how many more moves could they possibly do. I mentioned this on Twitter. It was basically a love letter to wrestling. That's what it was. They went out there and just had the best match they could possibly have, and the crowd was with them every step of the way. You know, they popped when the bell rang. We got the holy shit chants before they even locked up. And yeah, they did a lot of variety of moves. We got the Miz's skull-crushing finale. We got a lot of submissions, including Rusev's accolade. We got Samoa Joe's Coquina clutch, which actually got a Joe chant. And then Jericho countered that into the Walls of Jericho, which got a huge pop, and fans were chanting Y2J. You know what? I already thought he was coming back, but if you're Chris Jericho and you haven't made up your mind yet, let's say, I feel like Jericho has, but let's say Jericho was watching this and was still undecided if he was going to stay with TNA or go back to WWE. He's on AEW shows. Did I say TNA? I don't even know. AEW. Jericho in AEW, his last run, he was getting booed out of the building. And not because he was an effective heel, because the crowd was sick of him. They were chanting, "Please retire" at him. Then Jericho watches this show, and the crowd pops for his move, and they start chanting Y2J. Like, if there's any doubt, if Jericho had any doubt, would the fans in WWE accept him back? Would he get the reactions that he's hoping to get? The answer was crystal clear. Jericho comes back to WWE, he's going to be massively over. I mean, there's no question about it. So I think it's almost cemented now that Jericho will be back. And yes, Styles even did the Deadeye from Hangman Adam Page, which was very interesting. And Cena, as mentioned in the chat room, Cena he countered the phenomenal forearm with the Sister Abigail. And the crowd erupted for that. They started doing the fireflies, and John Cena looked up to the sky. It was really cool. Like, I got moved from that one. That was a really special moment. There were a lot of special moments in this match. and Cena started doing the Randy Orton moves, the draping DDT, the RKO. He went for the punt kick, but Styles moved. And another moment where Cena was really thinking on his feet. The crowd started chanting 619. And if you remember one of the last shows, the crowd chanted RKO. So Cena attempted the RKO on that show. Well, here, I don't think it was in the script, but he went and tried to do the 619. Styles countered it and got like the biggest heat of the match because the fans didn't get to see the 619. And they kept kicking out of each other's stuff, as you would expect. And then Cena came off the top rope, but John Cena caught him. He hit the tombstone pile driver. And then he hit one more attitude adjustment and finally got the 1-2-3 victory. Damn, I don't know what else to say other than I really do think it was a perfect match. Like, I don't know what else they could have done for this that could have made it better. Like, they went out there. Oh, I forgot to mention, thank you, Matthew. He also did, AJ also hit the Sweet Chin music as a tribute to Shawn Michaels. There were so many callbacks in this one. Like, they did everything they could possibly do. And I was even thinking, should they just go like a full hour and try to do like every history of wrestling? Like, that would be insane. Apparently it was 27 minutes. And that reminds me of that Cena and AJ match. I think it was 2017 Royal Rumble, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think that match, they never went outside the ring also, and people praised that match for the fact that they never did go to the outside in the entire match. But yeah, they went out there 27 minutes. They never lost the crowd. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome, fight forever." They were loving every single moment of it. So I don't know how you cannot say this was one of the best matches in WWE history. Like, they went out there, they had a long match, competitive. They did all the big moves, a lot of memorable moments and tributes, and the fans were red hot from start to finish. Great commentary too. Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, props to them for being hot and being on the call for this one. Like, I really do think this was perfect. Like, they absolutely knocked it out of the park. And the guy that does the star ratings, he gave that Jon Moxley and Ishii match 4.5 stars. So it'll be interesting to see what he gives this one. But yeah, it has got to be one of the best WWE matches of all time. And maybe, not even a maybe, I mean, I think this was the match of the year. I really do. And I'd be shocked if it doesn't win now, because they went out there and just, like I said, it was a Babe Ruth grand slam. And afterwards, they shook hands, they hugged, they raised each other's hands, and you give the people what they want. This is what they wanted, and WWE delivered. And this is a perfect example of giving the people what they want. So yeah, I highly, highly recommend watching it if you're a fan of professional wrestling. It like, how do you top this? For John Cena, like, this could have been his final match. And I think I said that with a couple of the other matches he had, like the one with Logan Paul and the one with Cody Rhodes. Like, how do you top this one? I don't know that you can. And AJ Styles, he's got 1 year left. He said he's retiring in 2026. What a way to go out for both guys. Like, they could call it a career now, and it would be like the perfect ending for both of them. So we'll see what they do. The rumor is that John Cena might be having a match with Dominic, so maybe he is going to go for that IC title and check off that last box. We'll see. And, you know, they're talking about Cena versus Gunther as Cena's final match, which should be a hell of a match. We'll see if Gunther can top it. You know, it's gonna be a tough one to beat. Unfortunately, I saw a comment in the chat room. It ain't going to be Edge because Edge is under contract to AEW for several more years. So ain't going to happen. All right, next up, we had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Asuka and Kairi Sane. Unfortunately for them, they had to follow John Cena and AJ Styles. Rhea Ripley in Australia is about as good of a possibility of keeping the crowd hot as you can get. And they were into it, not as much as the Cena match. They did pop big for Rhea Ripley. They were a little bit quieter, but they did get into it as the match went on. They even chanted Asuka's a wanker, which is quite funny. But it was more or less your basic tag match. You know, the heels worked over Io for a long time. You know, they're brewing that hot tag pop. And then, of course, it happens. Rhea Ripley comes in. Rhea and Io are working well together. But then Asuka and Kairi regain the upper hand. And, you know, pins are getting broken up. We start having things breaking down with everybody in the ring. Kairi did the insane elbow to Rhea. Io made the save. And then Rhea went for the avalanche riptide on Asuka, but Kairi prevented it. And then Rhea was going for a big boot to Asuka. Kairi pushed Asuka out of the way and took the blow for her friend. And they were really playing this up on commentary that it's a bad, toxic relationship. Asuka's manipulating Kairi and treating her poorly. So, yeah, Kairi takes the bullet for Asuka and then by Io with the moonsault. I like the storyline. I like the finish for this. The match itself was pretty standard. You got Rhea in her home country. And I think maybe they had to having to follow John Cena and AJ may have hurt the crowd heat for it a little bit, but I still thought it was a good match and a nice finish here to keep the storyline going. So thumbs up for it. We had our main event, which was Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins in a champion versus champion match. Seth Rollins had some cool ring gear. Like, the ring gear was a combination of his previous gears from his matches with Cody in 2022. That was a very nice touch. And he also was wearing the watch that Cody Rhodes had given him. He wore that out there. Now, early in the match, Rollins was having trouble. Cody just was one-upping him, and Rollins had to regroup. He was getting frustrated. He went over to Michael Cole and shoved Cole. Cody went after Rollins, but then Rollins used that to gain the advantage for a while, and he mocked the Stardust taunt that Cody Rhodes had back in the day. He did the cartwheel. Crowd was interesting because they were chanting for Cody, but then they were also chanting CM Punk, a guy who's not in the match. But I'm expecting more Seth Rollins and CM Punk at some point. But still, why are you chanting for the guy who's not in the match? Shouldn't you chant for Cody? Cody busted out a vertebreaker, and then they were trying to do some of the stuff, trying to recreate some of the magic from the AJ and John Cena match where they were doing each other's moves. Rollins did the crossroads to Cody, and then he did the pedigree to Cody. Couldn't get the win, though. He did a pedigree and a stomp. Cody kicked out. And then Rollins, who was feeling very frustrated at this point, he went outside the ring, brought his watch to the ring, and was going to use it as a weapon like brass knucks. But he decided against it. He was going to try to win fair and square. Match continued. Cody did a Cody Cutter, crossroads. Rollins kicked out. And then this spot is something I'm very mixed with as far as my feelings on it go. So Cody was in the corner upside down, and Rollins goes to the opposite side. He goes for a coast-to-coast move, and he does this flying headbutt, which looks spectacular, but Cody is grabbing onto the ropes, and it's taking a long time for Rollins to climb up and do the move. And I'm thinking, why is Cody just hanging onto the ropes? I know he's waiting for the move, but it just looked a bit too over choreographed for my own personal tastes. I give them credit, though, for doing something different. Like, I've never seen a coast-to-coast flying headbutt before. I just wish maybe they could have had Cody, like, maybe laying stomach down, like, in the corner or something, so it didn't look so obvious that he's, like, holding on to the ropes waiting for the move. I don't know. It just looked too over choreographed to me, but I'm nitpicking. Then Rollins did this top rope Spanish fly into a rock bottom, and that still wasn't enough. Then Cody did an avalanche crossroads. Rollins still kicked out, so they're kicking out of everything. And they traded blows, and then Rollins went to grab his watch. He had the watch, so he was ready to use it, and of course the referee gets knocked down, accident, whatever, and Rollins uses the watch, hits Cody right in the jaw with the watch, and then he takes out Cody with a curb stomp, and then he goes up to the top for a super stomp, and this is another spot where it looks cool, but also it's a bit choreographed, and it doesn't look realistic. Cody is like right there in the position, to get the avalanche stomp, the super stomp. He's like standing up there right in the perfect position for it. It just looks so obvious what's happening. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings on these kind of spots. Like, they look cool, but also like when you can see it coming a million miles away, like I don't know. I just feel torn on these types of moves. But yeah, he does the super stomp and gets the 1-2-3 victory. So Seth Rollins finally defeats Cody Rhodes after losing 3 straight matches in 2022. Rollins picks up the win. No help from any person. He obviously used the watch, but did get the win on his own without the other members of the Vision. Hell of a match. It was still a great main event. I don't think it was match of the night, though. I don't even think it was the best match they've had, but I do think it was a hell of a match. Definitely a strong main event. And then afterwards, Triple H presented Rollins with the Crown Jewel Championship and the ring. And then Rollins cut a post-match promo, basically gloating about his victory. I still think Hell in a Cell was the best Cody and Rollins match, but this one is up there. Although it might be number 3 because I still really like the WrestleMania match when Cody returned. So it's a tough one. Shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $2 super chat. Building Nexus, thank you for that, saying the faces must unite to slow down the Vision's momentum. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. MFTs versus Wyatts, like that's a good match to do. They should do a Survivor Series. You know what they should do? A Survivor Series elimination match with those teams at Survivor Series. That's what they should do with the Wyatts and the MFTs. Do a classic Survivor Series match. It doesn't need to be in War Games. You got the Vision. Bronson Reed picked up a huge victory. Rollins wins. They're looking very dominant at this point. And then the faces have to unite. They're having issues, but they got to get together and get their shit together for Survivor Series and War Games. So I agree with that. Building Nexus. Shout out to D. Martin 5th, who sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, during yesterday's SmackDown live stream, I think you may have forgotten to mention that the face paint on the Tongans was something that they used in New Japan as part of the Gorillas of Destiny. Well, the reason that I didn't mention it is because I didn't even know what that was until you mentioned it. Like, I didn't watch New Japan, so I didn't even know what these guys were doing. If you told me who's in the Gorillas of Destiny, I would have no idea. Like, I didn't watch it. So it wasn't a matter of me forgetting. I just didn't watch it. But yeah, it's cool that they did do an angle and a gimmick similar to what they had in New Japan. I do think that that's a nice little storyline that they're doing here and playing off of that. I mean, I have no problem with that. You know, they had Gallows and Anderson as the club, a little reference to the Bullet Club. You know, I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't get the reference. All right. So overall, this show, I think, was definitely a step up from WrestlePalooza. WrestlePalooza felt a little lackluster, and I think many would agree with that. And that ESPN writer definitely thought that WrestlePalooza was a bit of a letdown. I gave it 6, and I think this show was a pretty significant step up from that. I don't think it was the best show of all time, but I think it was one of the best WWE shows of the year overall. So I think if you take out John Cena and AJ Styles, it's an 8. It's a really good show. Not a top tier show, but Cena and AJ, I have to go 9. 9 out of 10. Excellent premium live event. And I didn't even mind the commercials. Like, I like having the little break times between the matches. It went about 3.5 hours for 5 matches, which was in line with what I expected. I set the stream time to 11:35, and I was right on the money. It ended right at about 11:30. I don't mind the lengthy commercial breaks. I like having a little bit of rest time between matches. I like to be able to get a snack or use the bathroom or whatever, and update the site and whatever. So I don't mind it. I personally don't mind it. And yeah, each match got a good amount of time, although I think maybe Tiffany and Stephanie could have used a little bit more time. But all in all, great show. I definitely recommend checking it out. And the men's Crown Jewel match and AJ and Cena are definitely a must-see matches, in my opinion. That's all I got for Crown Jewel. It's great to be done here around noonish. Very rare. I will be doing this again, though. Monday night, we will be back. After Raw in Perth, Australia, I will be doing the live stream here on the channel. So for those of you that are available, make sure you tune in Monday morning for my recap of Monday Night Raw in Perth. The This Guy Experience sent in $2. Thank you for that. This guy says, I didn't do VPN. Maybe next time. Shout out to Dave and I. Yeah, you guys did predict Big Bronson Reed, so congrats. Good for you guys that picked Bronson Reed. I was already screwed in the predictions league anyways. So I just gave up on that. I did get the point for no Brock, though, so I'm happy with that. Thank you guys for watching. Much love and appreciation to you all. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.